we're going to have a look at the more venture end of the spectrum and have a real discussion around how you view the world of marketplaces, especially given you're both investing into some more of the emerging markets and some of the challenges and opportunities you see there, and then also a little bit about where you see these marketplaces going. But first of all, I think it'd be good for both of you to introduce yourselves, and I think, Frederik, over to you first.
Yeah.
A little bit about yourself, your background, because you've been both an operator and an investor.
Yep.
Okay, and what PropTech Farm does.
Yeah, so many of you maybe have met me before. I was one of the co-founders and the CEO of Diacrete. Actually, I was doing similar to Thomas. Diacrete is a company that do images for real estate agents globally. We were all over in Australia, Europe, started in Sweden back in 2001, and we grew globally, and we were acquired by News Corp 2016. Very big challenge to be acquired by them. So we bought them the company back in 2018, and then we actually sold it now in March, so to a PE firm in Sweden. So that's my background, and been doing businesses with some of the portals here earlier. Working with you, Simon, was on the first of the property portal watches. So I realized that this is my passion. So back in 2020, I stepped out as the CEO and started up this project, PropTech Farm. We launched it actually as late as in January 2021, together with my co-founder here, Linus, the guy who has been lost and found sometimes in your app. And what we have done since, we have done 11 investments and is now closing our 12th. Our aim is to invest in sizes where we ending up around 15% to 20% ownership, help the companies from seed to grow and really find a way through this jungle of all the issues that I have been doing since 2001, all the death valleys during the journey. So we are a VC that's very entrepreneurial. We're helping the startups to really find the right path through all the challenges and finding more funding and so on.
And what's the ticket size that you tend to write?
The smallest we have done is 200,000 euros, and the biggest is 2 million. So we are between there. The average is around 500 to a million. That's where we.
Okay. Now, Ben, Net Ventures has got a slightly different story. Do you want to provide us with sort of a bit of your background and then what Net Ventures does?
Yeah, okay, thanks. And this is my second time on stage with Simon. In the last time I was introducing Dot Property, which was a company that I founded in 2013. And I had an audience over in Singapore, I had an audience similar sort of size to this, that included the founders of REA Group were there, I think, Property Guru, and everyone. And I think I'd launched my property portal. I was about a month in, and I had an audience being interviewed about how to run a property portal with like the massive companies, and so it was very nerve-wracking for me. But I'm glad to be sat on the other side now. So my background is I started off in digital marketing in Southeast Asia. We built a business that looked after the SEO, pay-per-click, and what have you of corporates, normally in Australia or the UK, Western market. But we recruited our technical team in Southeast Asia. We built that business up over about 6 or 7 years and won some awards for being fastest growing businesses with the Times Tech Track and what have you. And eventually handed that business over to a CEO that was going to take it to the next level for us, because my passion is really in starting and building businesses up to that level of where you know everyone's name in the team and what have you, and beyond that, where it needs processes and managerial people, I get slightly more bored. So I handed that business over to a CEO. He ran it successfully for us. I moved, he was based in the UK, I moved back over to Asia and was looking for a property and couldn't find a property portal in English. So phoned Simon and said, how do I start one of these things in Southeast Asia? And that was where Dot Property was born. So I started that business, ran it for 4 years, and then was lucky enough to sell it to the Matula Group, who later further sold that on to Lifel. After that, I moved into automotive, and we started a business called the Car Buying Group, which was UK. We used the same tech team that had built Dot Property, and we put those in to a business with guys that had significant experience and connections in the automotive industry in the UK. And together we built this business. We put some capital into it and some know-how. And together we built that business from 0 to 40 million sort of revenue within 3 years. And we sold it to a private equity-backed company called Aston Barclay in 2018. So we've had 3 exits. And when I say we, that's Net Ventures. And Net Ventures is myself and 3 other partners that are very entrepreneurial. We love the journey from 0 to kind of, I would say, Series A level, although because of our structure, we're not so focused on venture capital as business partners, but normally work with strategic investors or value-add investors to help our businesses scale. And we like to launch products, because that's what we've done over and over, and then find or bring in the co-founders quite often to run those for us. At the same time, where there's an outstanding founder, we've invested small ticket sizes at arm's length. So, and there's a couple of those here today.
Okay, so you're both in a different spectrum in terms of from when we're talking to the PE firms, either you're more in the Southeast Asian markets, there's a chunk of the Southeast Asian markets and the European markets, and it's a smaller ticket size and more hands-on by the sounds of it. So Frederik, when you think of investing in these businesses, what are you looking for? What is it that sparks your interest and gets you to actually want to write that $500,000 to $1 million check?
Of course, the business model must be something that you believe in, and the growth and the scalability. It's very important for us that it's an international, scalable business that we can take to different markets. But for us, at our stage, we're going to work very close with the companies. So yes, it's the co-founders, the team around them. And now you can actually see during this spring that we have done the right investments, because the market is changing, it's tougher, and now they have to become a real entrepreneur. So yes, we put a lot of focus on who we invest with and working with, so they are capable of staying up 24 hours a day, and maybe to pivot the whole business to another direction because of the market is changing and so on.
So how hands-on do you get with your investments?
Some of the investments are maybe more experienced entrepreneurs. It's week-to-week basis. We talk to them, we help them with maybe they send us the pitch deck, they send us the presentation, the strategies. Another company, both me and Linus is involved like nearly day-to-day calls with them, young guys, but they're really successful. We help them like with everything from fixing the office to signing different contracts and so on. So it depends on the size and the investments.
Now, how it's interesting when you think about that sort of approach, a bit hands-on, a lot of time. How scalable is that business, the investment business?
Our business.
Yes, your business.
Yeah, but there is a lot of entrepreneurs. I think there is more entrepreneurs that we can bring in on this network, because our goal is to build PropTech farms around the globe, and I think there is a lot of experience, and there is a lot of, probably in the room as well, a lot of startups that need our knowledge and all the changes that we have been made. I mean, you just look at Frederik. He sold the company twice and bought it back once. But I never officially talk about all the bumps and mistakes we have done. And that's something we can give. And that's, I think, a lot of entrepreneurs can give actually back to the and that's where Sweden have been very good. Mm-hmm. A lot of startups, and then the one who did exits is now helping the young companies and build them up again, because there will be a lot of mistakes. Yeah.
So Ben, when you think about investing in businesses, and you and your team are putting time and effort into those businesses as well, how do you think about scalability? And there's one of you, and there's you've got your business partners, and how do you allocate your time, and how do you think about, do I bring on another investment, or do I go deeper or do I go deeper in my existing investments?
That is a good question that we've asked ourselves many times, and I think one thing that we've had to do is focus on what we're good at, which is that launch through to probably, our goal would be to get something up to around 10 million in revenue, and then really the entrepreneurs should outgrow us, meaning that we can't, what they know, their own connections in the market, their supply chain, what we've helped them with in terms of initial MVP in technology, the marketing. Now that all needs to be in-house resource. So we dive right well in, probably more so than Frederik in terms of we have a technical team that build the MVP, we do all the marketing, all the legal we take off, we do the fundraising. Obviously, we're allocating capital in startup and pre-seed, and then we'll look for strategics and external to come in at seed that can then carry it forward.
But you can also take Lasudi as an example.
Yeah.
Because Ben and Costa here is started up Lasudi, and then we actually coming in now. So we are also
It's a late
shareholder
stage.
in Lasudi, and so we are a little bit later than Ben and the team.
So it sounds like the objective here is find some good ideas, back some good people, give them, take off their plate all the things that are distractions, like legal and corporate structuring and so on, and allow them the oxygen to really accelerate their business.
Exactly.
Give them some cash and then say, get on with it.
Yeah.
When they get to a certain point, you bring in the Frederiks of the world to help take it to the next level, and then you just slowly take a step back until you're just on the board or you're just doing some advice.
Yeah, it's Series A. We'd expect to not continue on the board.
Yeah.
So that's the time where the big boys are coming in with big money and they're dictating the term sheet, and we'd be happy to step out at that point so that we can get on with the next. So in our we have various stages that we run through in each project, and we might go through. I don't want to give myself too much creative credit for this, but ideation is really looking at businesses and marketplaces and things that are working in other markets that we think could potentially work in markets that we like to operate in and that we've got experience operating in, which means that we don't have to learn too much. So we go through that ideation process, and we might have 10 ideas of what we would like to pursue over the coming months or years, and then we'll go into a very slim, if you like, test and see phase. So we might take 3 of those ideas and put them on our technical and marketing team's desk and say, let's build, take a couple of days, build some landing pages, go out there and do some validation, and see if there's any product market fit there. And that's, we know it's working in the US, but will it work in Singapore? Will it work in the Philippines? Will it work in Thailand or Dubai? Those emerging markets. And so we can get it doesn't give us a complete validation, but it gives us an idea of interest. So we go through that phase rather than coming up with, and because we're coming up with the ideas, when we found the idea that we like and we want to launch and we're taking it to the next level, we're then actually recruiting the founders that we think are best fit to move that idea forward and grow that business. So an example of that, I won't use Lasudi because you might use that, but is a car subscription business that we launched in Singapore. And we went through our ideation. We launched the product. We got some good customer feedback. We understood the price points. We considered the unit economics based on our brief marketing plan and experiments. And then we went out to recruit the team, and we recruited a team which is an ex-Uber guy that had run, I think he launched Myanmar in one of his roles at Uber, and then he was at Grab, and he was working in that region anyway, and his connections were really good. And I think he launched to 10,000 Uber drivers within the space of 12 months. And the other guy we took on for the supplier side was the ex-GM of Hertz. So he had all that rental experience, operational experience in the local market. In fact, he was still at Hertz. And the reason our model, I think, works for us is this guy is married with 4 kids. He'd worked in Hertz and he was on a significant salary. He had that entrepreneurial itch. he had all the connections, but he wasn't willing to risk going to zero and starting on his own. And I think we've given him the opportunity. He was scared of the technology, scared of not having money. He was scared of never running a business himself, even though he's been far more senior than I ever have been in a company and running massive organizations. So we launched business, brought him in, and then he obviously gets equity and a near executive management salary, but not quite as much as he would have been on.
Okay, which makes a lot of sense. It's identifying the right people and then bringing them in, putting the incentives in place. Frederik, when you think about investing in these businesses, what's the underlying thesis that you've got? You know, what is the underlying? Where do you think marketplaces are going, or where do you think, in your interest, going prop tech farm, the prop tech industry is going?
So we have only done 3 marketplaces investments so far, because prop tech is a little bit broader than marketplaces. So the ones we have done so far, it's very, very important that they are on transactions and transaction-driven marketplaces going forward, and that they are scalable. I mean, the big thing for us is it's not only that they are number 1 or number 2 property portal in the country, it's rather marketplaces who we can spread all over the world. So that's the marketplaces we have invested in now. We have a short-term lease retail marketplace called X-Nomad. We have a company called Prop Street, which is a commercial platform for selling, and it's more like a secret club actually, because it's commercial properties are often, you know, behind the scene deals, but it's growing now in the Nordics, and it's something that we can expand. Lasuri, we are already taking. So we are coming in when Ben and his team have created this perfect company. Then we come in. Then when it's a real products on the market, there is a real client, and we see the transaction is actually happening. That's when we invest. So we don't invest today as Net Ventures on this very, very early stage. So we come a little bit later and help.
When you think about trends in the prop tech world, what are the 2 or 3 key trends that you're seeing?
For more prop tech overall? Or
yeah, prop tech overall and
overall, I think we see some very interesting things in Sweden now. We call it ourselves smart city investments. The way we live, I mean, you can connect that back to how we are supposed to drive in the future by what's called non-driving cars, etc. So we are seeing a big trend in Scandinavia now, where you have co-living, you have the way of how you storage things. We have a company called Vinden. It's a platform where you can actually take down all the storage places and so on, so you can live more small in downtown, etc. So we see a lot of changes in environment things, you know, energy savings and so on. I mean, Sweden is probably top of not producing so much.
Yeah,
so
that storage solution, if I remember correctly, it's slightly different, where you might have 10 boxes. The 10 boxes don't go to one storage unit.
No.
They could go to 10 different storage units, and the technology allows you to then bring them back when needed.
Yeah, you can take an example. If you're a skier, you ski until March, and then you put the skis with Vinden, the company, and they know that you're not going to get those skis until December the same year. So they store those skis very far away. But maybe you have something else you need every month, then they store it very close to you. And then you have an old sofa. They said, this sofa, Simon will never touch in the coming 2 years. They send it very far away, and when you want it back, you get it back. So it's a very clever system. It's also reducing the cost of storage and so on. So around this kind of theme, we like a lot, actually. And then we do the marketplaces, transactions. So
the themes tend to have high level of innovation involved in them,
yeah.
Looking at a current problem, but from a very different perspective.
Yeah.
Innovative in terms of, well, it's actually, you know, a lot of them, I think, tend to be quite close to where you are in terms of the Swedish market. So you're looking at that as a leader and then trying to think, how do I take that solution to a broader market where the problem is the same?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Now, Ben, when you think about investing, what are the 2 or 3 trends that you're seeing, and how does that then shape your approach to investment?
So I've always looked at the problems that the industry face, or we face, so my problems, and whether there's solutions that can overcome those problems. So, for instance, with property portals, I think we're very well served now in terms of when we want to search for a property. You know, you're getting instant notifications, the photos are improving. It's a nice experience. However, the actual selling of a property, and quite often the buying of a property, but maybe not to the same extent, is still a disastrous process in the UK, which is a westernised market. You know, I recently sold one, and it was 8 months from agreeing on the price to handing over the keys. And I think there's... So I guess what I'm saying is I think the search has been taken care of and it's improving, but I think there needs to be some disruption in the rest of the process. I think we're still really struggling to transact online completely and to provide the new generation, the new economy with what they want, which is being able to do things instantly. And I wonder if, I don't know anything about NFTs and blockchain, but I'm wondering if that kind of technology could maybe create virtual storerooms and data rooms for the sorts of things that take our solicitors and lawyers X amount of weeks or months to find and search for from government resources. So I think there's going to be a lot of, we've figured out the search aspect in terms of marketplace and classified sites, but I think there's a lot of opportunity in those, in improving the customer experience. And the same goes on the cars. You know, I've bought some nice cars and some not so nice. Actually, my best experience was with the not so nice car using Kazoo. It was wonderful. Even I got it delivered. It was a car for my mum actually, and the whole experience. The delivery guy had more enthusiasm than most CEOs that I work with. He was fantastic, and the whole experience from ordering, it was financed. It was everything was done in absolutely as and when I wanted it, how I wanted it. There was no pushing. Oh, you want to take this warranty or that insurance, or why don't you upgrade to this? Or no, we're going to knock 500 quid off your Part X, which I Part X on it as well. It was just a beautiful transaction. So regardless of their current share price, I think they're building something really, really good.
But how do you take these learnings and then apply them to emerging markets? Sorry, just before you answer that question, Bruce, if you could bring up the, thank you, slide. Please ask questions and join in the conversation. How do you, because part of what you're doing is taking it from established markets into emerging markets where you see similar issues. So how do you take that as an example into an emerging market?
So the customer experience, I think, is sometimes easier to provide in an emerging market because the manpower isn't as expensive and the people are more willing. So, you know, you can train and you can provide that instant reply. You know, how many of us have made an inquiry to an agent and not heard back for 3 days, you know? So that's what we do. We bring in that customer service and what we expect. We bring that into an emerging market. I think it's sometimes easier to provide in an emerging market than it is in a westernized market.
So it seems to me it's all about identifying inefficiencies in whatever process. And in this case, it's either cars or real estate. You're more about the real estate side of it. And it's about what technology can be applied
to improve.
To fundamentally make these inefficient processes more efficient. And we know that there's a lot of resources going into doing this in the established markets. A lot of people, you know, the Kazoos of the world are saying, okay, how do I make that whole process super smart and efficient? But in the emerging markets, there's a lot of opportunity. A, they're massive. B, there are a lot of transactions occurring every day, but still in, you know, 1890s almost type processes. And then it's about leveraging the technology and the learnings into those markets. Would that be a fair summary?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So where does it all go when you roll the clock forward, right, from both your perspectives in like the PropTech farm, for example? Where do you think you'll put more and more of your investment? Is there any sort of one area that you think is going to be, you know, the slam dunk?
No, we love to do more investment in marketplaces and transactions because I think it's a very exciting. That's why we're coming here. That's why we've been hanging around with Simon Baker all these years, the property portal watch and so on. Even though we didn't sell so much at Diacrit, so I think we're looking for more opportunities with things around the transaction around real estate. So we are in dialogue with more companies in this field, and that's where we see our investment going. But we would like to grow globally, so because I think it's still a little bit local. So our main focus today is the Northern Europe and Southeast Asia, because I've been living in Bangkok for a long time. So that's where we have done our main investment so far.
Okay. I'm just was thinking about when I was talking with Stephen and Felix from a PE perspective, and they were saying more or less not worrying about getting into the transaction, but more about being in the advertising model, which is very much an established market type view. In the emerging markets, do you want to be more into the transaction?
Who's that for?
Well, you can have a crack at it.
Well, we're every business we look at, I still think there's a lot of value in that lead nurturing and acquiring and the whole process, and then going through the transaction. And as I said, I think there's a lot of improvements to be made in that transaction process, not just in the emerging markets, but in the Western market. So I think there is a lot of opportunity in there. So yeah, the transaction is of interest. It depends on commissions available in that transaction as well, though, and they vary market to market. So new car transactions in the UK, we can make a good return on our marketing spend, but in some of the Asian markets, it's less than 1% on quite a valuable transaction, so it's less attractive, whereas the leads that you can send out for marketing purposes are more attractive. So everything's on a case by case, I guess.
And the one we have done so far is on transaction in the Nordics, so yes, on that sense. But of course, there is new business models coming up as well, which maybe will attract us as well. So, yeah.
Okay. So then a couple of questions have come up here. What lessons have you learned from businesses that didn't succeed?
Lots. There's
Okay.
so many, but actually from the ones that did succeed as well, because all the ones, like Frederik mentioned earlier, all the ones that do succeed they still have their ups and downs. There's nothing that just goes like that, or not for me, unfortunately. So yeah, we learn lots from those that don't succeed. It's quite often, I think, which leads on to that next question, but quite often because we've structured something correctly, or we've believed that there was a market there and there just wasn't, and we've just said, okay, you've got to know when to get out. So we're not overly invested in any one project, so it doesn't kill us if something doesn't work.
I take most of my learnings from our own experience with Diacrit, and we went in 2008, big bang into US. It was the biggest mistake in my life. I was really heavily diluted. So I'm teaching, these entrepreneurs big time how to think and don't be so. I mean, the PowerPoints is one thing, but you really need to dig down to the figures and understand the markets. That's the most important thing.
Okay. So Ben, when you bring on a co-founder, what sort of equity levels do you offer them?
It is lower than if they start their own business, obviously, but we want them to have enough to remain focused and interested. So it'll depend. It comes down to how much they want in wages, which isn't sometimes a choice, it's a need. So the higher the wages, the lower the equity, but we try and make sure the team have, if we're starting the business and bringing in founders when it's already incorporated and what have you, then we'll probably allocate to the team initially 30 to 40%, which
Seems quite generous.
well, they're asking for six-figure salaries on top of that, which we've got to fund, and we're taking the risk. We know the business is going to work, and we're given the opportunity to have something that they probably wouldn't be able to do without us. Yeah. And if they could do it without us, we're probably not the right partners for them. So, we look for the founders that suits.
Yep, understand. What tips could you give for a pitch? We're doing, for those who aren't aware, after lunch we're doing Pitch Club. We've got 6 companies. Each of them have 6 minutes exactly to pitch their business. and then the judges, of which Ben is going to be one. He's subbing in for Ryan, who's sick at the moment, are going to provide instant feedback on those presentations. It's always a bit of fun when we do this. So what would be some of the tips that you would provide?
Well, I think we all want to see founders that are really excited about the project they're working in, because I think regardless of how we think marketplaces are evolving, or whether it's transaction or leads, we all want to enjoy our jobs, and we all want to enjoy working with people. And I don't think I'd ever invest if I didn't think, I don't care how good the business is, if I didn't think, because we're so close to the businesses, we look at the people and their enthusiasm and their the amount of effort that they're going to be putting in. So I'd be looking for someone who's really excited about their business. And if that comes across, then I think it makes the whole business far more exciting for us externally.
I can just follow. I think it's you be yourself on stage and be honest and be humble, because the market is a little bit different from February this year, before and after Putin.
Yes.
So be humble and be yourself. I think that's the tip on the stage here.
Great, fantastic. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time to share your views and thoughts.